Hey, so guys, welcome to our Decoding ML interview session. And this is the agenda we will follow to structure our talk. Like how the book happened, what is inside the book, our real life interview experience, and then the email sign up process. Karun will explain, right? So we'll start from today, I guess. Everyone who signed up for this call will get the invite. And then you sign up and you'll get free questions for every day for 5 days. And then our goal is, if everything works out fine, our goal is to release the book next week. And then we'll do the open Q&A, which is the main thing here. I kind of wanted to open the floor for Q&A. And that's the only reason I'm doing it in the Zoom, because if I do the live sessions, I cannot read all the text messages or the messages I receive. And I kind of wanted to have it interacting and engaging. All right, so without further ado, let's start. And you guys can wait for your questions until the end. Like I said, I'll open the floor. And then if there is some burning thing that, hey, you have to, ask and you cannot follow through, it's a showstopper for you, then raise your hand and then we'll talk, right? No big deal. All right, a little bit about the authors first. I'll go first myself. I've been working in Microsoft for some time, going over my 5th year as a senior data scientist. I work in the security, so mostly Azure security, cybersecurity is the field that I've been working. And then we are building ML models, to kind of solve the problems that exist in cybersecurity today. So it could be from writing detections, preventing DDoS attacks or anything, network security, application security. There's multiple layers of security. And if anyone is from security industry or has some knowledge, then I think they call it defense in depth, right? So it happens from outside perimeter to the application to the data layer, right? So most of my projects has been around that area, and it's been interesting so far. I'm just loving this domain. And then besides the work, I would love to introduce myself outside of work to this stage, because this is some suggestion I give to all my mentees and everyone, that hey, you should kind of work on your personal brand, right? So it could be very small start. You start from writing a simple contents on LinkedIn, or doing something, right? So voluntary work or anything that you do outside of work. What is your identity? If I ask you, introduce yourself besides work. So you have to have that. So keep that in mind. I run the data science community channel, Only One Outlier podcast. So, I also do a lot of mentoring on the TopMate. All the funding from there, I'm channeling through to sponsor the education for women in Nepal who is in need. So there's a good social cause, and I come to do that as well. And of course, I love to help anyone who needs help to kick off their career. I've been there in their shoes myself, and then I know how hard it is right now. The market is pretty bad. But yeah, please connect and let me know if I can help with any from my end. With that, I'll let Karun speak. I've been talking for a while, so he's been silent, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Thanks again. Thanks for them. Thanks, huge bunch to Nirmal for reaching out with the book idea. I think about a year back, I'd been sort of posting about data science interview questions for almost a year now. And it was like a really cool surprise when Nirmal reached out and wanted to collab on the book, and really excited to see sort of it reach the stage where we're about to launch the book. And excited that all of you have sort of showed up to be a part of that. And yeah, a bit about me. I'm currently a data scientist at Walmart. I have been working in data science and engineering for, I guess, about 9 years now. 4 years as an SDE, about, I guess, 5 years now as a data scientist or applied scientist. I worked mostly in retail, first at Dell Technologies, then Amazon, now Walmart. So I mostly deal with e-com problems around primarily like supply chain, and now a bit more towards personalization. So yeah, if anybody's sort of looking to narrow down their business domain to e-commerce, data science and e-commerce, feel free to reach out to me. Apart from my work life, like Naval mentioned, I'm also a mentor on TopMate. I sort of have open sessions almost every weekday, Monday to Thursday. I sort of have free mentoring sessions that anybody can sign up. So you can find me on TopMate. And apart from that, do a bit of content creation on LinkedIn, mostly around helping folks crack data science interview rounds and try and make sense of the current market. And I also do a bit of research on the side. I really like a recommendation system space. I think it's seeing a resurgence because of all the potential that LLMs have in terms of understanding user intent, user behavior. So yeah, it's a really cool space, and I do a bit of research around that. Have like a few papers in the works, and hopefully down the line would be excited to share with you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks. And yeah, I think if you guys are not following, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys are following both of us, because that's how you guys probably came to find out about this. If not, then please follow him. His contents are extremely good, especially the interview questions he's targeting. And I do read myself, just to brush up my own knowledge as well. So thanks for doing that. So how the book happened, we kind of briefly touched upon it. But I think I would like to share a couple of things, right? So having everything consolidated in one place sometimes help you organize, prepare. So that's sometimes when I'm preparing for interviews, I love to cover everything, right? And that's kind of like initial stigma you get, like, hey, I will miss out on this topic versus the other one, and then that kind of puts you on this unnatural pressure, right? So because you are trying to cover all the chapters, everything, what I cover for the coding side, what I cover for the ML side, what I cover for the behavioral side, there's a lot to digest, right? So and one of the need that I saw when I was preparing is identifying the right signals, what is out there, right? So basically, it's not about the shortage of information today. We live in an era of AI where you can go and kind of write a prompt or even find a lot of contents online to prepare, right? So that was not the goal of the book, that, hey, we are just writing one more book, because they are already out there. Because I could see, if I go on Amazon or anywhere today, I could find book to prepare for ML. I could find contents to prepare for ML. One of the challenge for me, myself, and I think the thing that I did was, like, first identify the problem and I want to solve it, my way. And then if that is helpful, I want to help others. That was the goal. So when I was preparing, of course, I wanted to do a little bit of synchronized, organized preparation. And then that has to be kind of like divided by the ML standard topics that we usually see. Like, what do I prepare for linear regression? What do I prepare for the logistic regression? What do I prepare for the decision trees? So they all are different topics, right? And then that kind of gave me an idea that, hey, we have been, like, I used to start writing series of like 30 days of DS by today, for example, 30 days of DS questions a day, for example, right? The whole intention was kind of like have a audience who can follow this series, and then they will get the feed, on a daily basis to learn and prepare for their next role. And then quickly I realized that all of this content, like if new followers join me, right, and then they will miss the content that I shared maybe 6 months ago, right? And then obviously this happens because not every day you will see my content, maybe, if you're not, doing, and then that's like LinkedIn is kind of like filled with a ton of content creators today, and then your feed might sometimes pull it, sometimes may not pull it. Karun works for a recommendation engine. He knows better than how it works, right? So not always they cannot show everything to you. And then you may miss some of the stuff that I shared. You may miss some of the stuff Karun said, right? So what is the goal here is now, can we put something in one place, and what that place could be besides the book, right? So that was the entire idea, the motivation, or whatever we call to write the book. And then initially, actually, I'll share a funny thing. I actually had started, with few questions, and then I started coming across the post from Karun, and like he's exactly doing the same thing that I'm doing, sharing the interview questions and stuff. And now I realize that maybe we can collaborate. So make each other disciplined, make each other accountable. So having a co-author or the peer is extremely important, guys, in everything. So, like, it's not that you cannot do it. I could have written this book myself. Karun could have written it himself because he has enough questions. I have enough questions. In fact, like when we were writing the book, one of the incident was like we were going through the questions to choose the best one, and we were having a hard time which one to choose, which one to leave it back, right? So what we make sure is, let's not about the questions being asked in the company versus the quality of the question. We focus on the quality of the questions. So ultimately we came up with the list that we have. And then that is exactly the reason how book happened. So Karun, can you, if I miss anything, feel
No,
free to add.
and that's exactly the same thought process. One, like you mentioned, have everything in one place. Typically, you don't want to spend a huge amount of time on interview prep, especially like if you're doing your master's right now, or if you're doing a full-time job, you understand how little time you have for interview prep. So as condensed a resource as possible was what we were aiming for. So like Nirmal mentioned, we had a ton of questions, but we understand that, okay, interviews have like this coding part, your resume oriented part, and then there is this general theory part. And that general theory, we wanted to make sure we hit all the concepts, but have a resource that's sort of something you can finish. So 100 questions seemed like something that's very doable to a person. So we trimmed it down as much as possible, but at the same time, tried to hit every key topic that you would see, from bias variance to SVMs. So yeah, you should be able to not just answer the basic questions that you probably will see in the interviews, but hopefully understand the key concepts across each of those. So, and hopefully you'll see that reflected in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm hoping, and then we will be collaborating more, of course, right?
Yep,
Because
definitely.
it's just the starting point. Like I said, the interview preparation in DS is one of the challenges is not standardized yet. I wish someday it will be, but it's hard because the role itself is so adapting and evolving that you cannot, just like data engineers, you have at least 80% of the curriculum or the things are kind of fixed, standardized. Software engineering, I would say almost 90% of the things are standardized, besides the behavioral aspect. You grind with the lead code and you get it, but that's not there. Like what to grind, for in data science, because that is the main challenge, and we wanted to tackle that. So this is just a starting point. So we will probably try to focus on coding side, in future, like what exactly to focus. You don't need to code as a software developer, but you need to code some. So trying to find that sweet balance is hard, how much to prepare. And then it also sometimes is very, very subjective to the companies and interviewers in some cases, to the interviewer layer, right? So you prepare given all the patterns or things you have seen in the internet, and then particular interviewer has interest, or his domain of expertise is something, and then you are like, okay, that's not a good luck, but it happens, right? So the best we can do is prepare for the worst, right? So hope for the best and we prepare for the worst, right? So that's exactly our kind of like a idea for the book, what it covers. So briefly, this is just the table of contents, and we will have, like I said, the reason for us to have some standard topics was to kind of organize it. So you will like, hey, one of the topic is my weaker area, for example, right? It could be, and then you want to focus a little bit on that area. So if, for example, deep learning is somewhere you need a little bit of better understanding, right? Then you can focus on that a little bit more. So the organization of chapters is for that. And then we're not going too deep, but exactly not staying surface either. So that was the best part about this book, is like when we prepare, like I have been hearing a lot of times that, hey, let's prepare for the breadth, like because in ML can come from any angle and different based on the different companies. But when we just stay surface, it's sometimes the follow-up questions, and we'll share some examples as well, that what happened to me, and let Karun also speak. But yeah, so you want to go a little bit in depth, then you are not preparing for research-oriented roles, or particularly one subject. For example, if you are getting interviewed for a computer vision research scientist, then it's pretty simple for you. Your swim lane is fixed. You're going to prepare mostly for the neural nets, computer vision model, CNN stuff, like whatever comes in computer vision side. So that's a little bit better, understanding. For example, if your role talks too much about recommendation engine, then you are also a little bit more aligned that, hey, I can prepare mostly on this subject area. But most of the times, especially the junior data scientist hiring happens as a general purpose data scientist, right? Because there's no specialized role, and you will be tested for general knowledge. And when you are tested for general knowledge, the first tendency is to stay surface. I'm just going to hit the topics surfacely or at a high level, and then that's going to bite you in the interview itself, because it can go a little bit deeper. They will try to understand edge cases. They will try to understand how you kind of like validate few of the things you just mentioned, and then sometimes you get caught off guard. It happened to me. I'll share my experience later, and it happens to everyone. So that was another thing that we wanted to cover, is like have a very well designed, as in like topics, and then every question we cover is not only at the bare surface, but a little bit deeper as well, right? And we're trying to keep a balance, and it was obviously, it's not easy. So the interview experience, okay, guys. I'm happy that I got selected for ML interview, right? Then what happens is, okay, so I talk to recruiters, and they don't know much, right? Most of the times, and no offense to them, because they are supporting many teams, right? Because they are not only supporting data science or ML teams, because they are supporting other teams in the organization. So they typically, if you are not exactly working on the data science recruiting team for a long time, you probably won't know much about the interview process in detail, right? So you don't get too much out of the recruiter calls. And then most of the times, the hiring manager calls don't happen until you clear the technical round. And the technical round is the first primary get check, right? In my opinion. And that's when I think they will ask you some ML technical questions, sometimes a little bit of coding. If you are going for product data science, case study type questions, anything, right? Depending on the role. So, and then you prepare for the breath, right? So I'm like, yeah, I got it all, all the topics, like, the standard question that I see in internet, and then you are kind of like interviewer is going a little bit on the edge case side or in depth, and then you are like, okay, so I couldn't crack it, right? So it was, and then later on you realize after the interview process, it happens to me that, hey, after interview process, you're like, that wasn't too bad, it was a question I should have, like covered from different angle. It was just the same topic. I knew that, I knew what it was asked for, so, and we're trying to avoid that happen to you guys. So for me, like, like one quick example I will share, and then I'll let Karun share his examples. So there was a time when we all say that, hey, how do you handle class imbalance, right? Class imbalance. And this is standard answer I hear, and when I was interviewing in my early career, was the same that I follow, like smart. Everyone says smart, do smart, right? Then they will be like, hey, so yeah, smart is one option, and it's a widely used option, but what are some of the drawbacks? Can you highlight some of the drawbacks? Can you highlight some other alternatives that you can do besides it? And then, when he goes a little bit deeper on that, and then you are like, kind of like feel like you got stuck, or you don't know much about, okay, what are the other risks that I can bring? You can bring overfitting risks, because obviously it's always gonna use some sort of neighboring technique to balance the data. That means eventually it's can overfit, right? Because it's going to simulate the same data points, right, in a different way. And could be if the minority class have some noise, then you'd amplify the noise, right? Because you're pretty much creating more samples from the minority class, right? So we never know that minority class is always signals, right? And you amplified the noise. So could be class boundary overlap, right? So ambiguous sample overlapping could occur. So there's a lot of things. And then later on, like I after I couldn't answer well, then I kind of look into that, topic itself, and then I'm like, okay, there are a ton of other options. So I could learn for all the algorithms have class weights. I can do the class weight ratios myself. There is regularization techniques, right? So there's a lot of things you can handle and choose the metrics properly, right? So which I already knew. Okay, precision recall happens because there is a class imbalance. I could have even tagged that in the answering, right? Hey, like we should be aware of using what right metrics to choose for. So when you don't have enough understanding in a way that you have some understanding about the topic itself, but like the others connecting topics, adjacent topics, how does that other topics contribute to the same question? And that was the most challenging and eye-opener. Yeah, so that is one example. I'll let Karun share one of his, or if he has one interesting or funny ones, would be nice.
For me, I guess my first sort of like set of interviews, I was lucky enough to get a call back from Amazon. This was like in 2019. The market was quite a bit better. So one of the questions was like assumptions of linear regression, and I think I got like two or three, like linearity, heteroscedasticity, multicollinearity, and I couldn't remember the rest. The interviewer was sort of nudging me towards like the other two, which is like the residuals part. You're saying, okay, so what happens after you build the model? And
Yeah.
he wanted me to go to the residuals part. But I was thinking, oh, I guess I got that question. Let me start thinking about productionization. So I went on a completely different tangent. So yeah. For me, it's always been about um, yes, you need to know your fundamentals, but during the time of interviews, like you don't need to be excellent. You just need to be good enough and listen to the interviewer get their feedback. When they say something, it's probably to sort of help you get to the answer, because everybody forgets things. Like a lot of ML is remembering a lot of the theory, and interviewers understand that sometimes you may not remember the theory. So they'll be willing to provide you a few clues, few nudges. So always sort of listening to that has been a huge learning experience. And yeah, I've had like many such instances, because it's a lesson that it took me a while to learn. So listening to those clues, listening to those nudges, it's been a lesson that's very hard learned for me.
Yeah, of course. And then yeah, so we all have that kind of experience, right? So there was another example, like I prepare, like how do you and of course the standard answers, right? Like the hyperparameter tuning, right? If I ask you guys today, like this, I'll probably hear 90% of the time, like grid search and random search, right? So, and that's a standard answer. There's nothing wrong with those answers, to expand a little bit on that. But then the curveball will be like, hey, what are the drawbacks in the grid search, right? How can it go wrong? So, and then of course you need to understand when you prepare what the message I'm trying to get here is not only what grid search does, what is its advantage, but always look the coin from the flip side, right? What it cannot do, what is the drawbacks of this, right? So because the initial intuition is just to prepare that what it can do, what are the advantages of this, that kind of thing, right? So there's always a flip side. So keep in mind of those, and those are things. And these days the interviews are a little mature towards the ML ops as well. So you guys we haven't covered too much on the book itself, but what we are planning next is to cover the post production, right? So once the model is built and deployed, I think this is what like the standard ML and data science preparation workflow is, right? So you kind of like learn how to like all the nuances of writing and building the model, and then putting that in production, which is the post deployment, or at least the post building process, where how does model go in production? What are the things you should worry about? What is the evaluation metrics, performance metrics versus your service health metrics? That's different metrics for the model. Your latency, your response rate, how often you should retrain your model, right? And this kind of questions we are seeing that popping up, especially because they want now people to cover the entire workflow of the data science. A lot of companies don't only hire the data scientists to write the model and build the model this stage. You need to probably, if you are in the core ML focused data scientist, right? And this is what our today's talk is focused on as well, because the data science title has different flavors. So then you will probably need to know the deployment process as well. And then in future, I'll definitely will come up with something for you guys to cover the ML ops part. And then these days, I also noticed another thing is they would like to, even I would probably say the technical and behavioral, there is some middle ground. And then they will like to ask, like, right in between, right? So you're probably not going to be exactly technical, like, hey, explain me the precision recall, how it works, versus why we should choose one versus the other, right? So they will give a use case. So for example, in security, I can say that, hey, I'm building a model to, suppress the alert or suppress the false positives, right? So when they say that, my goal is to reduce the false positives, right? I just get some kind of signal like that. And then if you prepare only for like what precision is, what recall is, how it is calculated, if you want a model with a, like high recall, what could be the case? You can lower the threshold, obviously, right? So those are the things you can prepare. But then the business oriented question will be like, in this scenario, what do you think will be more important, right? What do you think if I should care for precision versus recall? They will be like, I don't know anything about, for example, the product manager may not know anything about precision recall, but he knows what is his problem. He knows what is the pain points they're going through, right? So now you need to translate that business language into the technical language or ML language, however you say it, to understand it and bring it back, right? So ultimately, there are business metrics they should care about, and they mostly care about that. There is model metrics that data scientists, as ML engineer, you should care about. And then there is service health metrics, which is ML in ops team or the engineers team will care about. So this different metrics that different team will care about, because that's their KPIs, right? That's the thing that they need to excel on. And you need to be aware of all that. So in the future, we'll definitely do a little bit extended version of preparation for you guys, especially on the ML ops side. So All right, now I think we talked too much. I'll let Karun to explain a little bit about this process, email sign up, that you guys will probably get all the people, even people in the waitlist will get this email. We'll make sure you get it. And you guys can see the link right here. You can start signing up, I guess. Yeah, Karun, you can talk about this process.
Sure. So yeah, we have a website to sort of ramp up to the launch of the book. We're planning to launch on July 4th. So yeah, this is sort of for folks who want to be put on the wait list on July 4th. You will get an email with the actual link where you can get the book. So yeah, along with this, what we want to do to sort of give you a sample of some of the questions inside the book. When you sign up to the wait list for the next 5 days, every day you will get a sample question from the book so that you can sort of start your prep already. So you'll get about 5 sample questions, one each day till July 4th. So from 30th, which is tomorrow, you'll get a question around 8:45, let's say EST, or 9 a.m. EST. Let's round it up, 9 a.m. EST. You'll start getting questions. So yeah, you guys can start your prep starting tomorrow itself.
Awesome. Yes, that's so let's sign up, and then we are working to release the book on time, and then it will be available, in some of the platforms that are more to come. So all right. So now I think the main fun part here is any questions you guys have, and I know you guys have a ton. So what I will do is obviously use the hand raise feature. So I will go on the queue. I will not follow any, anything to select from the name I like or anything. But yeah, let's raise a hand, whoever has questions, and then we'll go in the order and we'll take questions. If you feel like your question is covered by someone that we pick ahead of you, either if you have a different questions, bring a different question, or, you drop your hand so other person can get an opportunity. So it's all about getting your answers, like the Corey's answers. So all right, let me see. All right, so the first person I see on the screen with a hand raise is Sucharita Sundaraman. And if I mispronounce your name, please correct me at this spot, okay?
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting this session, and thank you for all the work that you've done for the book. I have two questions. So you were talking about understanding the business and translating the business metrics to applied ML metrics or production evaluation metrics. So does the book cover such product metrics questions?
Yeah, so we are not going a little deeper on the product side, just because our core focus was the ML focused data science roles, and it will come sometimes to ML roles. But like if you are interviewing for a product data scientist role, the product metrics is unforgiven. Like it will come, right? But for the core ML role, it's when we did some analysis of the different companies asking questions, the percentage of occurrence of that question was not heavy. So there are some, obviously, when we talk about the metrics, like why should we focus on the business side as well, but there is not in depth on this one. And like I said, it depends on the role which we are preparing, right? So the first thing that I will tell everyone on this audience is, if you are getting an interview opportunity, first figure it out which type of interview or the data science it will focus on, right? Some companies hire data scientists to do most of the BI reporting work as well today, and obviously data science itself is a, I would say, the parent title. In my opinion, there is always a subclass within that. So that subclass sometimes is inherent, and it's not gonna showcase to you until you understand what that role exactly is, and your preparation will kind of depend on that, right? So which exactly role you are targeting. If you are targeting heavily on the product side, maybe this book may not cover much, because in the product side they will go deep on A/B testing, experimental design, causal inference, and a lot of that kind of nature, hypothesis testing. We haven't covered too much on that arena because our goal is to cover for the ML arena, right? So But yeah, I think product data science side is extremely important. But me and myself and Karun, we both are on the ML heavy focus side. So we wanted to make sure our expertise is properly captured, right? So
Okay, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
no worries. All right. And the next person I can see on the screen, once you're done, please drop your hand. Harish Singaravelan, right?
Yes. Hello, I'm Harish. I'm eagerly waiting for your book. Like my question is like I'm currently a master student with no formal experience. Like even for internship, they're asking 1 or 2 years experience. Like what should I do in this situation? Like what kind of project should I build?
Yes. So Karun, can you?
I can make that.
Some stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, it again depends first on what kind of roles you're targeting. Product data science, applied data science, data analyst, ML engineer, applied data engineer. There's like 5 sort of broad roles right now in the market, and the skills for each are different. The current session is focused on what we call like the core ML, or typically it's called applied data science in some companies just call it data science, but where you build and ship models. So for that, there's sort of like 4 skill sets that you want to focus on, which is fitting and tuning models, error analysis and improving models, feature engineering and data analysis, and productionizing models. These are the 4 skill sets. So projects that display those skill sets work the best. There are like a few that I typically recommend. Time series forecasting based projects is a really good one. Walmart has its own sales data that was available for what we call M5 forecasting competition. It's like the competition that sets the benchmark for time series forecasting. I like time series forecasting because it helps you use like common statistical methods to deep learning methods, and you can really show how you improved your model. And statistical methods are very interpretable, so you can really show your understanding of ML in those. There are quite a few more. It also slightly depends upon what business area you want to target. It's a good idea to uh, try and sort of focus your projects on a specific business area. I have a guide on TopMate that will cover more, but if you need any additional help, feel free to drop a message to me or Nirmal and we can help you out. I'll just drop the link for the TopMate guide just in case. It covers almost every role, but you can focus in on the applied data science role as well. Guide for portfolio products, yeah.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. Like,
Sure.
do the cloud certifications are helpful in this current job market?
In terms of like a tier, the first thing that helps the most is sort of like projects. Like I would say if there's a percentage that I can give, I would say your projects and your resume is like 50% of the reason why you get a call back. The other 50% is your referral. Can like certifications and stuff help? Maybe like a slight amount for ML centric roles. Not that likely. I would say good business projects, making sure you present that well on your resume and LinkedIn, and making sure you focus on building a network and getting those referrals in. That's the 3 main things that you need to focus on. Certifications are like if after doing everything you still have time, sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So certifications, like Karun mentioned, I'd like to add a little bit. A lot of people tend to focus on adding certification on the resume, especially on the initial early career. I don't think you should pay too much focus or spend too much time and energy on that, because focus on having really good projects in a portfolio. Try to make sure at least one of your projects is interactive. And a lot of people miss this fact. I see that when I'm reviewing resumes, right? So for example, for junior roles, the project section is one of the section where they can advocate for their skills, right? Because they don't have the bigger experience section, right? So they only have probably internships, graduate or research assistant kind of role. And what we look for is, okay, what if this person, when coming to the team, can do? And ultimately it matters with the skills. And how do you advocate for your skills? The project section, right? And if I see the projects that is extremely common projects, that has been like, people have been doing to learn the data science, and they're good to keep your hands, dirty in the beginning. But when it comes to portfolio type projects, it has to be a little bit more in depth. And then at least one of the project, if you have a link or something that, and to these days it's so easy, there's so many simple packages in Python like Streamlit, Guardio. There is even used to be like like fast APIs stuff. Very simple to set up one URL, right? And hosting is also very cheap. There's a lot of hosting, third-party hosting sites, and then if you have a little bit of interaction, like for example, you build a sentiment analysis for your customer review data, good project, for example. But how do you showcase that, how it functions, right? And if you give me a link URL that I can just log in, and then, I mean, you don't even have to log in, right? So just click the link and put a paragraph of some sample reviews, for example, and then I hit score, and then it probably positive, negative, whatever it does. In fact, this is not a complex project, but when the interviewer is getting that opportunity to, kind of interact with the project, that kind of sometimes makes a big difference. So at least one project, try to choose, doesn't have to be, like, and also try to align the projects with the companies or domain you're targeting. And initially, I get it, because you don't have a specific domain to focus on, but there is some preference, right? Always try to prioritize your preference. Like, do you want to target e-commerce? You're targeting e-commerce, and then you got an interview opportunity for e-commerce, for example. All your projects are being done on the something else like healthcare. Then there is a little bit of gap, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And if you have multiple projects, then try to align with the role type that you applied, and it helps. All right, so that is on the project. Let's move on. Next participant for the question is Debarchan.
Yeah, hi Nirmal, hi Karun. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so I had a few questions actually. I'll go one by one. So the first is, so I am also a master student in AI at IIT Delhi. So for a lot of the companies, and especially the bigger ones, the online assessment round is data structures and algorithms round, right? So does it vary for software development and machine learning roles, or is it the same? And if it's the same, what do you think is the best way to prepare?
Karun, you want to take a first stab, and I'll probably add.
Sure. Yeah, the initial assessments for software engineer is going to be a bit more around DSA prep. So like something like on HackerRank is what you want to see. For ML, it depends. If you're going for an ML engineering role, those are roles where you're prime. Again, it depends a bit on the company to company, but primarily you're going to be productionizing models that need to scale and be very resilient. So it's kind of similar to software development. So in those also, the first few rounds will be like DSA oriented. If you're going for data science, that need not necessarily be the case. Like I've seen like companies where they hire product data scientists where they don't have like any DSA rounds. It's going to be SQL, then machine learning, what we call case study metric questions, and you may not even have any kind of like DSA rounds. For applied data science, again, depends upon company to company. If you're targeting FANG companies, initial rounds will be a bit DSA oriented.
Okay, and how to go about preparing for that? I mean,
For
just
DSA, lead code, blind 50. That's going to be a list. Neat code is, I guess, like everybody knows at this point, neat code. It's a YouTube channel where he walks through like the lead code blind 50, blind 75, sorry, blind 75. Those 75 questions are a pretty good representation of most concepts that's going to be asked. For software developer and machine learning engineer, definitely you need to go through the 75. For applied data science, I might suggest focusing on array strings and specifically dynamic programming. I have a lot of mentees who sort of skip out on DP just because it's hard. I know it's a bit tricky to get down. Like it's sort of like the first time in 10th standard you start learning trig. Initially you're just bypassing the formulas, but after a point something starts to click where when you see the formula, something in your head was like, oh, I can use this pattern. So you need to sort of grind to the point that click sort of happens. It takes time, but don't skip out on it. Array strings, dynamic programming, these are the most commonly asked. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and another question I have, sorry if I'm taking a lot of time.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the another one is, so Nirmal, in one of the slides you mentioned that you have to think on the flip side of any concept, right?
Right.
So the thing is, there is no consolidated source online where you can find this stuff, or is there? Like, my question is, how do we cover the connected or adjoining topics?
Yeah, that is one thing we are, and at least hoping to cover some on this book, is when we say linear regression we're covering. So we are trying to first make sure all the questions we cover are very relevant, because we had to kind of like filter it out, right? Like prioritize, like I said, we had a lot of questions. And then we wanted to make sure that when someone is kind of like going through these questions, naturally there is some connections on some of these questions, right? So we're not directly calling it out, that, and because the reason we can't call it out is it's sometimes very subjective to the interviews, right? When how they pick the flip side, right? So when you prepare, of course, the thing is, if we cover just enough content on that particular topic and the same context, because when you are preparing, of course, you are in that one context, right? And then when the question comes, the flip side or the adjacent side of, or the edge case around that area, the goal or our hope is that we are able to at least cover some of that on that topic. So
Okay, because I asked this question because all good machine learning courses or deep learning courses have, like, the professors, like, they have a different pattern of teaching, different topics that they cover, so there is no unified syllabus per se, and consequently, like, somebody covers something, someone else covers it in a bit lesser or more detail, so it's not really that the sources are scattered all around. So in order to consolidate everything, that's pretty tough.
it's,
So that's why I asked the question.
yeah, no, I hear you, and I think this is the exact message I've been hearing from everyone, and I too felt it. Like in the beginning of the conversation, I said, right, there's a lot of signals out there, but how do we kind of get something beneficial from those signals is challenging thing today. All right, so let's move on. Next question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's very awesome questions. Prathavish.
Yeah, hi Nirmal. Am I audible?
You are audible. Yeah, I hope I said your name correctly. If not,
Yeah, you spelled it correct. No problem for that. So my question is, in industrial grade ML production, do the data scientists write their own low-level programs mostly, or do they rely on third-party libraries or APIs? For example, uh, let's say association mining rule for learning consumer behavior in a retail space, something like that. So an association mining rule might have some uh, mathematical program that needs to be implemented, and do the data scientists develop their own code, low level code, or do they depend on mostly third party software? So my question is on these lines.
yeah. So I'll take a first step, and I'll ask Karun to add on if I miss anything, because obviously when you pick up the example, it happened to be from somewhere close alignment with recommendation. So I mean, in general, I won't target any topic, but in general, if companies tend to use the out of the box, or like most of the companies do believe that if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, don't do it, right? And that's actually true, because but the other thing always comes, because I work on security, is the security aspect of it, right? If there is a Python package, and in Microsoft, when we leverage Azure machine learning platform, and that's where we kind of mostly leverage to build models and put in production, the packages has to be registered in the registry, right? We have the, for example, the Python package registry, right? When it happens to be, going through that registry process, there's a lot of security checks. There could be Python packages that has some vulnerability, open vulnerability out there, right? And if the package is really good and simple to use, doesn't mean that you should use it, right? Because it still has open vulnerability. That means there is some open bug in there, or something that hackers or adversary can leverage to get in your system. And like the model poisoning, if you have heard about it, this is in the security that they call it model poisoning, is if there is some models out there, for example, and that mostly, I mean, I'm in security, so I like to talk a little bit here, because when the adversarial attack happens, most of the times they call, or they want to do it in the supply chain, right? When I say supply chain, that means like, the log4j attack, right? Because everyone uses Java. So that means when they come up with this log4j, it infected everything, right? Like everyone who is using Java. So that means the coverage or the scope of attack is bigger. That's why I think maybe there's some prime targets are like scikit-learn packages, right? Because a lot of people might use it. So, and then that's why a lot of the big companies in the enterprise level, they always continuously monitor these packages for some sort of open bugs or vulnerability or anything identified, right? So that's there. Once everything is, like good to go, that, for example, then there's nothing wrong to use outside packages. You don't really have to do come up with your own algorithm, for example. You can use the existing algorithm to benefit your problem or solve the problem.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
continue, Karun.
No, go ahead, go ahead. I think I didn't have much to add. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have worked in a company as a data scientist, and then I also worked in a finance company as a quantitative analyst. So I learned that I was using mostly third-party APIs from PyTorch and Keras to build my machine learning models. So most of the time, it's just learning the math behind them and using them. We are not writing our own code. So is that the norm across the industry?
Yep. By and large, yes, it depends upon how close to the edge you're working, in the sense that typically when you have a business problem, what you want to do is, okay, build a baseline, see if ML can actually contribute, and then over time you mature your ML model. At some point you will reach the stage where your model is so mature that you are sort of the cutting edge. Now if you want to improve on it, it's you who needs to define the algorithm. So it depends a bit on how long you have been working at that problem, or how competitive the area is. Like Rexis, especially if you're working in the ad space, by and large, a lot of teams, they would still be using a lot of the underlying packages, but they'd be trying to improve on a lot of the algos on top of it. They'd be combining a lot of things to try and beat the next product out there. So yeah, it depends a bit, but majority, I would say 80% of scientists would be using things out of the box, and the focus is on solving a business problem rather than writing your own algorithm.
Okay. So in that sense, I don't think that like we need a PhD kind of candidate for data science roles, like masters.
No, if it's like a PhD candidate is required, like there are a lot of like computer vision tasks, like self-driving cars, or there's like I mean like folks who go into building the next ChatGPT, stuff like that. In the requirements, typically it's going to be the basic qualifications is going to be PhD in some kind of related field. So that there are those like 20% roles, but 80% of the roles, the idea is to solve the business problem as well as possible, and may not be to improve the algorithm.
Okay, thank you for the answers. So currently I am working in the United States. I'm working as a software developer / mathematician. I'm not using much of my statistics and machine learning skills, so I would like to move on to the industry back. So I think I will keep this in mind.
Okay.
Awesome, guys. I think we did cover. Is there any pending hand raise? Let me check. I think we covered for now. I pick up some of the questions from the chat. Unfortunately, I'm not able to cover with the time constraint, but I will come back to those answers. And then if I can have you guys, everybody, just want to take one screenshot to share. And thanks everyone who is joining and stick around for longer. People who got the invite a little late because maybe you guys were on a wait list, and I was making sure we have enough room here. So basically, yeah, for those guys, we'll share the recording. I will definitely make sure I'll share the recording.